The first time I said it out loud, my voice didn't shake, not even a little bit. I held the phone tight against my ear, looking out at the ocean view from my balcony. Below me, the waves rolled in and out against the white sand. It was a private beach, and my mother had never set foot on it. "I'm sorry, Linda," I said into the receiver. I kept my tone even and calm. "Hale Haven is fully booked. There just isn't room." For a long time, my mother didn't respond. There was just a heavy, stunned silence on the other end of the line. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was waiting for me to crack. She was waiting for me to apologize, to scramble, to try and fix it just like I had done for my entire life. But I didn't. I just stood there, breathing in the salt air. That silence wasn't just an awkward pause in a phone conversation. It was the sound of 8 terrible summers, finally coming to an end. It was the sound of me finally stopping the cycle that had hurt my children for far too long. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? For 8 years, every summer started the exact same way. It wasn't marked by the heat rising or the school year ending. It was marked by the knot in my stomach. It was marked by the waiting. It was marked by my mother's phone call. I always knew when it was coming. It was usually the second week of May. The weather would just be starting to turn nice. The flowers would be blooming. People would be talking about their vacation plans, and I would be staring at my phone, willing it not to ring, but knowing it had to. The ritual was always the same. I would be in my kitchen. My kitchen wasn't like my mother's kitchen. It was small. The counters were old laminate that was peeling at the corners. The faucet dripped no matter how many times I tried to fix it with a wrench. I rented this house. It was a decent house. It was clean. It was safe. But to my family, it was a symbol of everything I had done wrong. To them, my house was temporary, just like they thought my career was temporary, just like they thought my life was a mess that needed to be managed from a distance. The phone would ring. The screen would say, "Mom." I would take a deep breath. I would lean against the counter. I would put on my cheerful voice, the voice I used to protect myself. "Hey, Mom," I would say. "Rowan, honey, how are you?" Her voice would be sweet, sugary. It was the kind of fake sweetness that makes your teeth hurt. It was the voice she used when she was about to deliver bad news, but wanted to pretend she was doing you a favor. "I'm good, Mom, working hard." "The kids are great." "That's nice," she would say, dismissing my life in 2 words. She didn't ask about my work. She didn't ask what Eli was building with his Legos or what book Maya was reading. She just wanted to get to the point. "Listen, honey, I'm doing the schedule for the beach house this summer." There it was. The beach house. It was a sprawling property 3 hours away. It sat right on the dunes. It had big glass windows that looked out at the Atlantic Ocean. My father had bought it 10 years before he passed away. He wanted it to be a place for the whole family. He used to tell me, "Rowan, this is for you girls, so you always have a place to go." It had 4 bedrooms, 3 full bathrooms, a living room with 2 giant plush sofas, a deck that wrapped around the entire back of the house. You could fit 20 people on that deck for a barbecue and still have room to dance. There was room. There was always room, but not for me. "Oh," I would say. My heart would start beating faster. I knew the script. I knew my lines. But a small, stupid part of me always hoped that this year would be different. Maybe this year there would be space. "Yes," Mom would sigh. A dramatic, heavy sigh. "It's just a puzzle this year, Rowan. A real headache. Brielle and Connor are coming down for 2 weeks in July, and then they wanted to stay for the first week of August for Connor's birthday." I would grip the phone tighter. "Okay, and you know Brielle," Mom would continue, a little laugh in her voice. "She's bringing the nanny this year, and the new baby needs the quiet room in the back, and the boys need the bunk room. And with Connor's parents maybe popping in, well, the house is just bursting at the seams." I did the math in my head. I always did the math. Brielle had 4 kids, plus Connor, plus herself. That was 6 people. Even with a nanny, that was 7. The house slept 14 people comfortably. There were empty beds. There were empty sofas. There was floor space. But it wasn't about the beds. It was never about the beds. "So," Mom would say, her voice dropping to that sympathetic, condescending tone. "You understand, Rowan, the beach house only sleeps so many. It's just tight. I don't think we can squeeze you and your 2 in this time. It wouldn't be comfortable for you." She always phrased it like she was protecting me, like she was saving me from a cramped, uncomfortable experience. "We don't mind sleeping on the pull-out couch," I would say. I hated that I begged. Every year I begged a little bit. "The kids really miss the ocean, Mom. Maya keeps asking about the tide pools." "Oh, honey, I know," Mom would say, "but the pull-out couch is broken. And with Brielle's boys running around, it would just be chaos. You need your rest. You work so hard at your little projects." My little projects. That's what she called my design firm. I ran a branding agency. I had clients all over the state. I managed a team of 3 freelancers. I paid my own rent, my own bills, my own groceries. I didn't take a dime from anyone. But to Linda Hale, I was just playing pretend. Brielle was the success story. Brielle married Connor, who came from old money and worked in finance. Brielle didn't work. She hosted charity luncheons. She wore linen dresses that never wrinkled. She had a flawless blowout every Tuesday. Brielle was the golden daughter. I was the divorced one. I got divorced 5 years ago. It wasn't a tragic story. We just fell out of love. He was a decent man, but we were unhappy. We split amicably. But to my mother, divorce was a stain. It was a failure. It meant I was broken merchandise. It meant I was less than. I understand, Mom, I would say finally. It's fine. I knew you'd understand, she would chirp, relieved that I wasn't fighting back. Maybe you can come down for a day trip. Just drive down in the morning and leave after dinner. It's a long drive, but it would be nice to see the kids. 6 hours of driving for 3 hours of judgment. Maybe, I would say. Great. Well, I have to go. Brielle is sending me links for new patio furniture. We're redoing the deck for the summer. She hung up. I stood in my small kitchen with the dripping faucet. I felt heavy. I felt small. It wasn't just about a vacation. I could save up and take my kids somewhere else. It was about the message. The message was clear. This family belongs to Brielle. You are a guest. And guests are only welcome when it's convenient. I walked into the living room. My laptop was open on the coffee table. I had a deadline for a logo design. I had 3 emails to answer. I had laundry piled on the sofa. I looked around at my life. I was proud of it. I fought for this peace. I fought to build a home where there was no yelling, no passive-aggressive comments. But for 8 years, that phone call made me feel like a child again. It made me feel like I was standing outside a locked door, listening to the party inside, knocking, and being told, sorry, full capacity. Even when I knew the room was half empty. The hardest part wasn't the phone call. I could handle my mother. I had 34 years of practice handling my mother. I could swallow the insults. I could ignore the jabs about my job. The hardest part was the kids. Maya was 12 now. Eli was 9. They were old enough to remember. They were old enough to notice things. A week after the phone call, Maya came home from school. She threw her backpack on the floor. Mom, she asked. Yes, sweetie. Chloe from my class is going to Disney World, and Jackson is going to a lake house. She looked at me with big, hopeful eyes. Are we going to Grandma's beach house this year? Remember last time we went? I was really little, but I remember the ice cream shop. My heart sank. They had been there once, 4 years ago. It was a fluke. Brielle had gotten sick and canceled her trip last minute, so Mom had called me in a panic because she didn't want the house to sit empty. We had gone for 3 days. It was the best 3 days of my kids' lives. They still talked about it. I looked at Maya. I looked at Eli, who was sitting at the table drawing a picture of a shark. Not this year, guys, I said. I tried to keep my voice light, cheerful. Why? Eli asked. He didn't look up from his drawing. Is Aunt Brielle going? Yes, I said. Are her kids going? Yes. Then why can't we go? Eli put his marker down. There's that big room with the bunk beds. There are 4 beds in there. Cousins can sleep together, that's what people do. He was 9, and he had more logic than my mother. It's just complicated, I lied. The house is very full this year. Aunt Brielle has the baby now, and there's a lot of grown-up stuff happening. It wouldn't be fun for you. It would be fun, Maya whispered. I wouldn't mind sleeping on the floor. I know, I said. I walked over and hugged her. I held her tight so she couldn't see my face. I didn't want her to see the anger in my eyes. But hey, I have a better plan. We're going to do the summer of fun right here. We'll go to the pool. We'll go to the movies. We'll have pizza picnics. They smiled, but it was weak. They knew. Kids always know when they are being left out. That July, while Brielle was posting photos on Facebook of fresh lobster dinners and sunsets from the private deck, I packed a cooler with sandwiches and juice boxes. Come on, guys, I said. Public pool day. We drove to the community pool in town. It was a scorching hot day. The parking lot was full. We had to park 3 blocks away and walk, carrying our towels and the heavy cooler. When we got there, the line was out the door. We waited for 20 minutes in the sun. Inside, it was chaos. The water was cloudy with sunscreen and too many bodies. There was screaming, whistles blowing. The smell of chlorine was so strong it burned my nose. There wasn't a single empty lounge chair. We found a patch of concrete near the fence. I laid out our towels. The concrete was hot. Okay, I said. Who wants to swim? Maya looked at the crowded water. A kid jumped in and splashed a woman nearby who yelled at him. It's really crowded, Mom, Maya said. It's just lively, I said, forcing a smile. Go on. Cool off. They went into the water. I sat on the hot towel, sweating. I pulled out my phone. I shouldn't have done it, but I did. I opened Instagram. There was a new post from Brielle. It was a video. It showed the beach house deck. It was empty and peaceful, just the sound of the ocean. A table was set with white linens and crystal glasses. My mother was sitting there, laughing, holding a glass of white wine. Brielle's kids were running on the empty, pristine sand below. The caption read, "Family time is the only time that matters. Number blessed, number Hale Haven, number summer tradition." I felt a physical pain in my chest. It wasn't jealousy of the money. I didn't care about the crystal glasses. It was the erasure. We didn't exist to them. We were an inconvenience. We were the poor relations who didn't fit the aesthetic. I watched my kids in the crowded pool. Eli was trying to practice his swimming, but he kept bumping into strangers. Maya was standing by the wall, looking bored and lonely. They deserved better. They were good kids. They were kind. They were smart. They were funny. And their grandmother didn't want them because they took up space that could be used for better guests. That night we drove home. We were sunburned and tired. The kids fell asleep in the back seat. I carried them into the house one by one. I tucked them into their beds in our rented house. I went into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired. I looked worn down. Every smile I had given them that day felt like a lie. Every time I said, "This is fun," I felt like I was swallowing a piece of my own dignity. I was protecting them from the truth, that their family didn't value them. But how long could I protect them? Maya was 12. Soon she would understand. Soon she would stop asking, "Why can't we go?" and start saying they don't want us. And that thought broke me. I went to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. I sat in the dark. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Mom. "Sent you a check for $50 for the kids. Buy them some ice cream from me. Enjoy your summer, $50. That was the price of her guilt. She thought $50 made up for a summer of exclusion. She thought $50 fixed the fact that her grandchildren were swimming in a crowded public pool while she drank wine on a private deck. I looked at the text. I didn't reply. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep being the good daughter who said, "Thank you for the scraps." I couldn't keep lying to my children. This was the 8th summer. And as I sat there in the dark, listening to the hum of my refrigerator, I made a silent promise to myself. This would be the last summer we were the victims. This would be the last summer we waited for an invitation that was never going to come. I didn't know how yet. I didn't know what I was going to do, but the wound had gone too deep this time. It wasn't just a scratch anymore. It was an infection, and I had to cut it out. The final crack didn't happen over the phone. It happened 6 months later in person. It was Christmas Eve. We were at my mother's house. The house was perfect, of course. There was a 12-foot tree in the foyer covered in vintage glass ornaments. The banister was wrapped in fresh garland that smelled like pine and money. Every year, Mom hosted a formal dinner. And every year, it felt less like a family gathering and more like a performance review where I was failing. I wore a dress I had bought on sale. I thought I looked nice. I had curled my hair. I had put lipstick on. I wanted to show them that I was doing okay, that I wasn't the poor, sad divorced daughter they whispered about. But the moment I walked in, I felt underdressed. Brielle was wearing red velvet. It looked expensive. Her husband, Connor, was wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. Their children were dressed like little dolls in matching outfits. My kids, Maya and Eli, were in clean clothes. Nice clothes, but they looked like regular kids. "Oh, Rowan," Mom said when she saw me. She didn't hug me. She just brushed imaginary lint off my shoulder. "You look comfortable." That was her code word. Comfortable meant cheap. We sat down for dinner. The table was set with the good china. The candles were lit. The room glowed with that warm, golden light that rich people always seem to have. The conversation started the way it always did, talking about Brielle. "Connor just closed a massive deal," Brielle said, beaming. She rested her hand on his arm. "We're thinking of upgrading the SUV. The new model has heated seats in the 3rd row." "Wonderful," Mom clapped her hands. "You two work so hard, you deserve the best." Connor smiled. It was a tight, smug smile. "Just doing what needs to be done, Linda." I sat there cutting my roast beef. I was proud of myself too. I had news. Big news. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't just scraping by. My design firm had landed a massive contract with a tech startup in the city. It was a 6-figure deal. It meant security. It meant I could finally breathe. I waited for a pause in the conversation. "Actually," I said, my voice a little too loud in the quiet room, "I have some good news too." Everyone stopped eating. They looked at me. Mom looked almost nervous, like she was afraid I was going to ask for money. "I just signed a huge contract," I said. I couldn't help the smile spreading across my face. "It's for a full rebrand of a tech company. It's going to be my biggest year yet. I'm finally going to be able to put some real money into savings." I waited. I expected a congratulations. I expected a good job. Instead, there was a beat of silence. Then, Brielle laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, exactly. It was worse. It was a dismissive laugh, a light, airy giggle into her wine glass. "Oh, Rowan," she said. "That's cute. I love that you're still having fun with your little art projects." My stomach dropped. "It's not a project, Brielle. It's my business." I know, she waved her hand. "I just mean, it's good you have a hobby that pays. It keeps you busy while the kids are at school. But let's not compare it to Connor's finance work, right? That's real stress." I looked at Mom. Surely she would defend me. Surely she would say, "No, Brielle, your sister runs a company." Mom just smiled a tight, pitying smile. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said. "Maybe now you can find something stable. You know, a job with benefits, so you don't have to worry so much." They didn't hear me. They refused to hear me. To them, I would always be the mess. If I failed, I was a mess. If I succeeded, it was just cute. I put my fork down. My appetite was gone. Then Mom cleared her throat. She looked from Brielle to me. "Since we're all here," Mom said, clasping her hands. "I wanted to talk about the summer schedule early this year. Brielle and I were discussing it." My heart hammered. "Not now, not on Christmas. Brielle wants to host a big 4th of July party at the beach house," Mom said. "For Connor's clients. It's going to be a networking thing, very important for his career." She turned to me. "So, Rowan, I know you usually ask about that week, but the house is going to be strictly for the business party. No kids allowed. It's adults only, very high-end." She paused. "And for the rest of July, well, Brielle's in-laws are coming from Connecticut, so the house is just fully booked again. I'm so sorry." She gave me that sad, fake pout. "You understand, don't you? There just isn't room." I looked around the table. I saw Brielle checking her nails. I saw Connor checking his watch. I saw my mother waiting for me to say, "It's okay, Mom. I understand." She was waiting for my submission. She was waiting for me to accept my place at the bottom of the totem pole. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. It was a quiet, internal breaking of a chain. I realized something in that candlelight. They were never going to invite me. Even if the house was empty, they wouldn't invite me, because inviting me meant admitting I was their equal. And they needed me to be beneath them. They needed someone to look down on so they could feel taller. I picked up my napkin. I folded it neatly. I placed it on the table. "You're right," I said. My voice was calm, so calm it scared me. "There isn't room," I said. "There has never been room and there never will be room." Mom blinked. "Rowan, don't be dramatic, it's just a house." "No," I said. "It's not just a house, it's a choice. You choose them every single time. And I'm done asking you to choose me." I stood up. "Kids," I said, "get your coats." "Rowan," Mom stood up, looking scandalized. "We haven't even had dessert. I made the pecan pie you like." "I'm not hungry," I said. I walked over to Maya and Eli. They looked confused, but they stood up immediately. They sensed the change in me. "Rowan, sit down," Connor grunted. "You're making a scene." I looked at him. "No, Connor. I'm leaving the scene." I ushered my kids to the door. "If you walk out that door," Mom called after me, her voice turning sharp, "don't expect a check for their birthdays." I turned around one last time. I looked at this house that was supposed to be home, but felt like a museum where I wasn't allowed to touch the exhibits. "Keep your money, Linda," I said. "I made 6 figures this year, remember, I don't need it." And I walked out. We got into my old minivan. It was freezing cold. My hands were shaking as I put the key in the ignition. "Mom," Maya asked from the back seat. "Are you okay?" I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Tears were stinging my eyes, but for the first time in years, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. "Yes, baby," I said. "I'm better than okay, I'm free." That night changed everything. Before, I worked hard to survive. Now, I worked hard to build. I had anger, a lot of it, but I didn't let it turn me bitter. I let it turn me into a machine. I took every cent of that new contract. I didn't buy a new car, I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't move into a fancier rental. I started looking for property. I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted the ocean. I wanted the salt air. I wanted to give my children the summer they had been promised but never given. But I couldn't afford a move-in-ready mansion like my mother's beach house. The prices in her town were astronomical, so I looked south. 2 hours south of my mother's exclusive, gated community, there was a town called Cape Oakhaven. It was quieter, less trendy. It was a working fisherman's town, but it had the same ocean, the same sun, and the same white sand. I spent my nights scrolling through real estate listings until my eyes burned. And then, in late February, I found it. It was listed as a distressed commercial property. The photos were terrible. It was a small, run-down motel right on the edge of a cliff, overlooking a private cove. It had 12 units. The paint was peeling off in gray strips. The sign out front was broken. It just said CSHELMOEL. But I saw the bones. I saw the way the decks jutted out over the water. I saw the big windows that were caked with grime but faced the sunrise. The price was low, shockingly low, because nobody wanted to do the work. I drove down there the next weekend. I told the kids we were going on an adventure drive. When we pulled up, Maya wrinkled her nose. "Mom, this place looks spooky." "Look past the dirt, Maya," I said. I met the real estate agent there. He was an older man named Mr. Henderson. He looked at me with skepticism. I was wearing jeans and a sweater, driving a minivan. "It's a lot of work, ma'am," he said. "Roof needs replacing. Plumbing is shot in units 4 and 5. It's been sitting empty for 3 years. "Can I see the view?" I asked. He led me through the main office, which smelled like mildew and old paper, out to the back deck. I gasped. The view was incredible, better than my mother's. The ocean stretched out endlessly, a deep, churning blue. The beach below was pristine because there was no public access. It was private. I closed my eyes. I could see it. I could see the peeling gray paint replaced with crisp white siding. I could see the broken railings replaced with modern glass and cedar. I could see families here. I could see my family here. "How much?" I asked. He told me. It was almost exactly the amount I had saved, plus the loan I had been pre-approved for based on my business revenue. It was a risk, a massive, terrifying risk. If this failed, I would lose everything. I would be broke, and my mother would be right. I looked at Eli running down the beach chasing seagulls. He looked happy. He didn't care that the paint was peeling. He just loved the space. "I'll take it," I said. Mr. Henderson blinked. "Don't you want to talk to your husband or a partner?" "It's just me," I said. "I'm the buyer, cash down payment. Can we close in 30 days? The next 3 months were a blur of exhaustion and adrenaline. I didn't tell anyone, especially not my family. When Mom called to talk about Brielle's Easter brunch, I kept the conversation short. "Busy with work, Mom, can't talk long. Still doing your little designs?" she asked. "Something like that," I said. I was living a double life. During the week, I was the branding expert, running my team, pleasing my clients, earning the money. On the weekends, I was a general contractor. I hired a local crew in Oak Haven. I wasn't just the owner, I was in the trenches. I learned how to sand floors. I learned how to tile bathrooms. I learned how to negotiate with lumber yards. The Seashell Motel disappeared. In its place, Hale Haven Retreat began to rise. I named it that on purpose. Hale was my last name, too. It was my legacy, too. My father had left that beach house to all of us, but they had stolen it. So I was building my own legacy. By May, the transformation was happening. The rotting wood was gone. The exterior was a pale, creamy driftwood color. The doors were painted a soft turquoise. I designed the interiors myself. I used my branding eye. I made it look like a high-end boutique hotel. Crisp white linens, woven baskets, local art. I wanted it to feel luxurious but welcoming. I wanted it to be the opposite of my mother's house. My mother's house was full of things you couldn't touch. Hale Haven Retreat was designed for living. Every time I wrote a check to the contractors, my bank account dipped dangerously low. There were nights I couldn't sleep. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, panic rising in my throat. What if nobody comes? What if I'm just a fool with a grudge? But then I would remember Brielle's laugh. Cute. A hobby. And I would get up the next morning and drive 2 hours south to paint another wall. The final test came in June. The renovation was done. I had listed the retreat on luxury travel sites. I had used my marketing skills to create a beautiful website. I opened bookings on June 1st. I sat at my computer refreshing the page. 1 hour passed. Nothing. 2 hours. Nothing. My phone rang. It was Mom. "Rowan," she said. "Just reminding you about the 4th of July. Remember, no kids. And we'll need you to park on the street because Connor's investors have big cars." She wasn't even inviting me to the party. She was inviting me to work the party effectively, to stand in the background while the important people celebrated. "I can't make it, Mom," I said. "What? Why?" She sounded annoyed. "We need family unity for the photos." "I'm busy," I said. "Busy doing what?" I looked at my computer screen. A notification popped up. New booking, the Sea Glass Suite, 5 nights. Then another. New booking, the captain's quarters. 7 nights, then another and another. Within 20 minutes, July was 80% booked. I smiled, a real, genuine smile. "Just working, Mom," I said. "Just playing with my little projects." "Fine," she snapped. "Be selfish. But don't come crying to me when you're sitting alone in that rental house all summer." "I won't," I said. "Have a great party." I hung up. I wasn't going to be in the rental house. I had kept the biggest, most beautiful suite, the penthouse suite on the top floor with a wraparound balcony, for myself. I was going to the beach. And this time, I wasn't asking for permission. June arrived with a heat wave. The air was thick and sticky, the kind of heat that makes the pavement shimmer. Usually, this was the time of year I felt the most trapped. I would be stuck in my rental house with the loud air conditioning unit rattling in the window, looking at photos of Brielle and my mother enjoying the ocean breeze. But not this year. Packing was different this time. I didn't pack the cheap cooler. I didn't pack the sad little sandwiches. I packed our entire summer wardrobe. "Mom, why are we taking so much stuff?" Maya asked, watching me fold towels. "Are we moving?" "Sort of," I said, a secret smile playing on my lips. "We're going away for the whole summer." Eli looked up from his tablet. "To the public pool?" "Better," I said. "Get in the van." The drive took 4 hours. We drove past the exit for my mother's town. I felt a strange pull in my chest as we passed it, a ghost of the old anxiety. Usually that exit meant judgment. It meant feeling small, but we kept driving. We drove south, where the trees got thicker and the towns got smaller. When we finally turned onto the coastal road leading to Oakhaven, the sun was beginning to set. The sky was a bruised purple and orange. "Where are we?" Maya asked. She was looking out the window at the fishing boats bobbing in the harbor. "This doesn't look like Grandma's beach." "It's not," I said. I turned the steering wheel and guided the minivan up the winding cliff road. We reached the top and the gravel crunched under our tires. And there it was, Hale Haven Retreat. It didn't look like a motel anymore. It looked like a sanctuary. The siding was a crisp, clean white that glowed in the sunset. The new cedar decks wrapped around the building like a warm embrace. The landscaping was lush, tall dune grasses, and pots of bright blue hydrangeas that I had planted myself just 2 weeks ago. A sleek wooden sign hung by the entrance, lit by soft solar lights. Hale Haven Retreat. S 2024. I parked the van. "Who lives here?" Eli asked, his voice hushed. He was looking at the infinity pool I had installed. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the sky. "Is this a hotel? Are we allowed to be here?" That question broke my heart a little. Are we allowed to be here? He was so used to being told he didn't belong in nice places. I turned off the engine. I turned around to face them. "We aren't just allowed to be here, buddy," I said. "We own it." Silence. Absolute silence. "What?" Maya whispered. "I bought it," I said. "I bought the old broken motel and I fixed it. It's ours. I'm the boss. You're the boss's kids." They stared at me. Then they scrambled out of the van. I watched them run toward the building. I watched them stop at the edge of the deck, looking down at the private cove below. "Mom," Eli screamed. "There's a staircase to the beach, a real staircase." I walked over to join them. I stood on the deck I had sanded with my own hands. I smelled the salt air. It smelled different here. It didn't smell like guilt. It smelled like ownership. "Come on," I said. "Let me show you our room." We weren't staying in the guest suites. Those were for the paying customers who would start arriving tomorrow. I had claimed the manager's apartment on the top floor. I unlocked the door. It was beautiful. It was open concept, with wide plank floors and a kitchen that had marble countertops, not peeling laminate. I had designed it specifically for us. There was a reading nook for Maya with a view of the lighthouse. There was a Lego station for Eli, and there was a master bedroom for me with a bed that faced the ocean. The kids ran through the apartment, touching everything. "This is ours," Maya kept asking. "Like we don't have to leave on Sunday." "We don't have to leave until September," I said. That night we ordered pizza. We ate it on the balcony, listening to the waves crash below. It was dark and the stars were out. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a notification from Instagram. Brielle had posted a photo. It was a picture of her and Mom holding sparklers. The caption read, "Kicking off the summer, missing the family members who couldn't be bothered to show up. Number priorities." I looked at the photo. I looked at their perfect smiles. Then I looked at my kids. Eli had tomato sauce on his chin and was laughing at a joke Maya told. They were relaxed. They weren't worried about spilling on the white furniture because they knew I wouldn't yell at them. I didn't comment on Brielle's photo. I didn't text back. I put my phone down, face down on the table. "Mom," Eli asked, "can we go swimming in the pool tomorrow?" "You can swim in the pool every single day," I said. I went to bed that night, but I didn't sleep right away. I lay there listening to the ocean. For the first time in 8 years, the sound of the waves didn't make me feel lonely. It sounded like applause. The next morning, reality set in. This wasn't just a vacation home. It was a business. And I had to run it. I woke up at 5 a.m. The sun was just bleeding into the sky. I made coffee in my beautiful new kitchen and went down to the reception area. I had hired 2 local teenagers, Sarah and Jake, to help with housekeeping and groundskeeping. They were good kids, hardworking and grateful for the summer job. "Okay," I told them when they arrived at 7 a.m. The first guests arrive at noon. The Miller family in Suite 1 and the Davidsons in Suite 4. Everything has to be perfect. I was terrified. What if the plumbing backed up? What if the Wi-Fi crashed? What if they realized I was just a graphic designer playing atelier? At noon, a silver sedan pulled up. The Millers. I smoothed my dress. I walked out to greet them. "Welcome to Hale Haven," I said, extending my hand. My voice was steady, even though my palms were sweating. Mrs. Miller looked around. She took a deep breath. "Oh wow, the photos online didn't do it justice. It's so peaceful." "That's the goal," I smiled. I checked them in. I gave them the key cards. I watched them walk to their suite. 10 minutes later, Mrs. Miller came back to the front desk. My heart stopped. Here it comes, I thought, the complaint. "Excuse me, Rowan," she asked. "Yes." "Is everything okay?" "It's perfect," she said. "I just wanted to ask, where did you get the artwork in the room, and the branding on these soaps? It's so chic." "I designed it," I said, her eyes widened. "You did? Do you take outside clients?" "My husband owns a winery upstate, and we've been looking for this exact aesthetic." I stood there, stunned. In my mother's house, my design work was a little hobby. Here, to these strangers, it was professional. It was desirable. "I do," I said, handing her my business card. "I'd love to chat about it." That was the rhythm of the summer. Every day, Hale Haven was full. We were booked solid. The guests were different from the people in my mother's social circle. They weren't flashy. They didn't care about who was wearing what designer label. They were people who wanted quiet luxury. They wanted to read books by the pool and drink wine on their balconies. They treated me with respect. They treated my staff with respect. And they treated my children with kindness. One afternoon in late July, I was working in the office. I looked out the window and saw Eli playing in the pool. There was a man in the pool, one of the guests, a doctor from Boston. He was tossing a foam football with his own son. I watched, holding my breath, waiting for the man to tell Eli to move or to stop splashing. That's what Brielle would have done. That's what Connor would have done. Instead, the man threw the ball to Eli. "Go long, kid," he yelled. Eli laughed and swam backward, catching the ball. "Nice arm," the man cheered. I felt tears prick my eyes. It was such a small thing, a game of catch. But for a boy who had spent his life being told to sit still and be quiet at family gatherings, it was everything. Maya flourished too. She started helping me in the mornings. She liked arranging the fresh flowers in the lobby. She liked talking to the guests. "You're really good at this," I told her one day as she perfectly folded a stack of pool towels. "It's easy," she shrugged. "You just have to make people feel welcome. Unlike Grandma." She said it so casually, I stopped what I was doing. "What do you mean?" "Grandma makes people feel like they're auditioning," Maya said. She didn't look up from the towels. "Like you have to prove you're good enough to be in her house. Here, people are just happy." She was 12 years old, and she had figured out the entire dynamic of our family. "You're right, baby," I said. That's exactly it. August rolled around. The heat broke, replaced by perfect, golden days. I was making money, real money. The retreat was profitable in its first quarter, which was unheard of. I paid off the renovation loans faster than I expected. I bought a new car, not a flashy sports car, but a reliable, safe SUV that didn't rattle when I went over bumps. But the money wasn't the best part. The best part was the evening of my birthday. Usually my birthday was ignored. Maybe a text from Mom or a generic card from Brielle. This year, on August 15th, I closed the office early. I went up to our apartment. Maya and Eli had decorated the living room. They had blown up balloons. They had made a banner that said, "Happy Birthday, Boss Lady." We ordered takeout, fancy seafood this time, lobster rolls and clam chowder. We sat on the deck as the sun went down. The sky was streaked with pink and violet. The lighthouse in the distance began to blink its steady warning. "Mom," Eli said, his mouth full of lobster, "is this really ours, forever?" I looked at him. I looked at the resort I had built from dust and determination. I looked at the life we had created in 3 short months. "As long as we want it," I said. "Good," he said. "Because I don't ever want to go back to being the cousins who have to wait outside." I reached across the table and took his hand. "We are never waiting outside again," I promised him. I realized then that I wasn't angry anymore. The burning rage I had felt at Christmas had cooled into something solid and unbreakable. I didn't need them to see me. I saw myself. I didn't need Brielle's approval. I had a waiting list of clients who wanted my vision. I didn't need my mother's room. I had built my own castle. I took a sip of wine. It was a cheap bottle, but it tasted better than the vintage stuff Connor served. I felt complete. I felt enough. But of course, the silence couldn't last forever. The summer was ending. Labor Day was approaching. And in my family, Labor Day was the biggest event of the year. It was the grand finale at my mother's beach house. I hadn't spoken to them since June. They probably assumed I was sulking in my rental house, miserable and hot. They had no idea. And they were about to find out. The phone on the table buzzed. I looked at the screen. Incoming call, Mom. I looked at Maya. I looked at Eli. Grandma, Maya guessed. I nodded. Are you going to answer? I looked at the resort below me. I saw the guests laughing on the patio. I saw the lights twinkling in the trees. I saw the kingdom I had built while they thought I was nothing. Yeah, I said, picking up the phone. I think I am. I swiped the green button. Hello, Linda, I said. I didn't say Mom, I said Linda. It was a small shift, but it was the beginning of the end of her power over me. The phone felt heavy in my hand. It was Labor Day weekend. The busiest weekend of the year. Below me, the retreat was alive. There was a jazz trio playing softly near the pool. The fire pits were lit, casting a warm, orange glow against the twilight. Guests were laughing, clinking glasses, and enjoying the paradise I had built from scratch. And on the other end of the line was the woman who had told me I wasn't good enough to sit at her table. Rowan. Mom's voice wasn't sweet this time. It was sharp. It was the voice she used when a waiter messed up her order. Where are you? I'm at work, Linda, I said. I leaned against the railing of my balcony, looking out at the ocean, my ocean. Don't lie to me, she snapped. Uncle Benji just called me. He and Delilah are driving down the coast. They stopped in some town called Oak Haven for gas. And do you know what he saw? I smiled. I knew exactly what he saw. My signage was excellent. He saw a sign, Mom continued, her voice rising in pitch. Hale Haven Retreat. He thought it was a coincidence. But then he drove up the hill. He saw the minivan. He saw you walking into the lobby. She paused, waiting for me to panic, waiting for me to apologize for hiding. He sent me pictures, Rowan, she said. He sent me a picture of a resort, a luxury resort, with an infinity pool, and your name is on the website as the owner. Yes, I said calmly. It is. You own it. She sounded breathless. Like the wind had been knocked out of her. How? With what money? With the money I earned from my little design projects, I said, and the money I saved by not going on expensive family vacations for 8 years. There was silence. I could hear the ice clinking in her glass on the other end. I imagined she was sitting on her deck, probably surrounded by Brielle and Connor, holding court. But for the first time, the court wasn't paying attention to her. They were paying attention to the pictures on her phone. Why didn't you tell us? She asked. Her voice shifted. It wasn't angry anymore. It was hurt, but it was a manipulative hurt. It was the victim voice. We are your family. You built a whole hotel and didn't tell your own mother. I didn't think you'd be interested, I said. You've always been very clear about what kind of success you value. And you've always been very clear that there's no room for me in your summer plans, so I made my own plans. Rowan, that is unfair, she said. We invited you. We always invited you. It was just logistical issues. It wasn't logistics, Linda. It was a choice. She ignored me. I could hear her brain spinning, calculating. I knew what was coming next. Well, she said, her tone brightening artificially. It looks beautiful. Benji says the view is spectacular, better than ours. It is, I said. So, here is what we'll do, she said. She was back in charge, she was planning. Brielle is actually bored here. The weather is a bit overcast. We were thinking of taking a drive tomorrow. We can come down and see the place. Maybe stay for the weekend. Benji says you have a penthouse suite. We can all squeeze in. It will be a fun family christening for your new business. I closed my eyes. The audacity was breathtaking. For 8 years, I had begged for a pull-out couch. For 8 years, I was told no. Now, the second I had something valuable, they wanted the best room in the house. They wanted to come in and stomp all over my sanctuary. They wanted to critique my paint colors and judge my staff and make me feel small in the one place where I was big. I looked down at the pool. I saw my daughter, Maya, handing a fresh towel to a guest with a bright, genuine smile. She was happy here, she was safe here. If I let them in, that safety would vanish. If I let them in, I would be the daughter again. I would be the servant. No, I said, the word hung in the air. Excuse me, Mom said. No, I repeated. You can't come. Rowan, don't be ridiculous. We're your family. You can't tell us we can't visit. I can, I said. It's my property, and I'm telling you that you cannot come. But we're family, she sputtered. I know, I said. My voice was steady, it didn't shake. But here is the problem, Mom. Hale Haven is fully booked. Every single room, there just isn't room. You can make room, she yelled. You're the owner, kick someone out. Or we can stay in your apartment. I gripped the phone tighter. You told me for 8 years there wasn't room for my children, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. You let them swim in public pools while you sat on a private beach. You told me my work was a hobby. You told me I was a mess. So I built a bigger place. I built a better place. And this weekend, there's no room for you. Rowan, if you do this. I'm doing it, I said. I have to go, Linda. I have guests to attend to, paying guests. Guests who actually want to be here. Rowan, I pulled the phone away from my ear. I looked at the screen. Her name was flashing. I pressed the red button. The call ended. I stood there for a long time. My heart was pounding in my chest, but it wasn't from fear, it was from adrenaline. It was the feeling of finally dropping a weight I had been carrying for 3 decades. I had said the words, "There's no room for you." I turned around and walked back into my apartment. Maya was sitting on the couch reading a book. She looked up at me. "Was that Grandma?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Is she coming?" "No," I said. "She's not coming." Maya studied my face. She saw something there, maybe the relief, maybe the strength. She smiled. "Good," she said. "I like it better with just us." "Me too," I said. "Me too." I knew it wasn't over. Ending the call with my mother was just the opening shot. The real storm would come from the person who actually pulled the strings in our family. Brielle. The next morning my phone rang at 8 a.m. I was in the kitchen with the chef, going over the breakfast menu. "Incoming call, Brielle." I excused myself and walked out to the quiet calm of the reception area. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello, Brielle." "You are a petty, jealous, spiteful little person," she hissed. "No hello, no pleasantries, just venom." "Good morning to you too," I said. "Mom has been crying all night," Brielle said. "She didn't sleep a wink. She is devastated." "How could you speak to her like that, telling her there's no room? You're just trying to hurt us." "I was just stating facts," I said. "The resort is full." "Don't give me that garbage," Brielle snapped. "I saw the pictures Benji sent. It's a motel, Rowan. You bought a roadside motel. It's not the Ritz. Stop acting like you're running a 5-star establishment. We were trying to be nice. We were willing to drive down there and support your little venture, and you slammed the door in our faces." "Support?" I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "Brielle, you didn't want to support me. You wanted to inspect me. You wanted to come here and look for cracks in the paint. You wanted to compare it to Mom's house and tell me how it falls short. You wanted to make sure I still knew my place." "You're delusional," she said. "We are family, we share everything." "We share nothing," I corrected her. "You share with Mom. I get the leftovers. I get the Tuesday afternoon phone call telling me I'm not invited. I get the $50 check. I get the pity." "Oh, get over it," she groaned. "Are you still holding on to that? Because we didn't have beds. You're holding a grudge because of a bedroom count. That is so childish, Rowan. We have a large family. Logistics are hard." "It wasn't about the beds, Brielle," I said. "It was about the respect. You never respected me. You mocked my job. You mocked my life. You treated my children like second-class citizens. Well, guess what? My children are royalty here. This place is for them. You're parading this hotel just to spite us," she said. "You think having a mortgage makes you special. Connor says you'll be bankrupt in a year. He says the market is crashing. Connor can think whatever he wants," I said. "But while Connor is stressing about the market, I'm fully booked until November. And I did it without his money. I did it without Mom's money. I did it alone. You're going to regret this," she said, her voice low and cold. "If you keep us out, you're out for good. No Christmas, no Thanksgiving, no birthdays. If you don't invite us this weekend, you are officially cutting yourself off from the family." This was the ultimatum, the threat they always used to keep me in line, the fear of being alone. But I looked around my lobby. I saw the sunlight streaming in. I saw the fresh flowers. I saw the guests walking by, smiling and waving at me. I wasn't alone. I had built a community. I had built a business. I had built a home. "Brielle," I said softly. "You can't cut me off. Watch me," she said. "No, you don't understand," I said. "I'm not afraid of being cut off anymore, because I've realized something. I don't need your table. I built my own table. And my table is happier. My table has better food, and my table has peace." There was a silence on the line. For the first time in her life, Brielle didn't have a comeback. She didn't have an insult ready, because she realized her weapon didn't work anymore. She couldn't hurt me by excluding me because I had already excluded myself. "Goodbye, Brielle," I said. "Rowan, wait," I hung up. I didn't block her number. I didn't need to. I just put the phone in my pocket and walked back into the kitchen. "Everything okay, boss?" the chef asked. He was a burly man named Marco who made the best omelets on the coast. I looked at him. I felt lighter than air. "Yes, Marco," I said. "Everything is perfect. Let's add blueberries to the pancakes today, a celebration." That weekend became a legend in our new life. It was the weekend the fear died. My mother didn't show up. Brielle didn't show up. Instead, I spent the weekend working alongside my staff. I poured coffee. I folded towels. I laughed with the guests. On Sunday night, I sat on the beach with Maya and Eli. We built a bonfire. The ocean was loud and dark in front of us. "Did they call back?" Eli asked. He was roasting a marshmallow, his face glowing in the firelight. "No," I said. "Are you sad?" Maya asked. She moved closer to me and rested her head on my shoulder. I thought about it. Was I sad? I was sad for the little girl I used to be. I was sad for the years I wasted trying to please people who couldn't be pleased. But for the woman I was now, No, I told her, kissing the top of her head. I'm not sad. I feel like I just woke up from a long, bad dream. The ocean crashed against the shore. It pulled back the sand, scrubbing the beach clean. It was washing away the old footprints, washing away the old Rowan. I took a deep breath of the salt air. It tasted like victory. 3 years later, the morning sun hits the glass windows of the Solace Ridge Lodge. It's my second property. After Hale Haven became a runaway success, I didn't stop. I leveraged the profits. I found a beautiful, abandoned ski lodge in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I applied the same formula: simple luxury, warmth, and plenty of room. I'm sitting in my office at the lodge, looking over the quarterly reports. The numbers are strong. My little project is now a multi-million-dollar hospitality group. Maya is 15 now. She's spending her summer working at the front desk at Hale Haven. She runs the social media accounts. She's confident, sharp, and kind. She never apologizes for taking up space. Eli is 12. He's at a surf camp down the coast, paid for by the business. He walks with his head held high. I lean back in my chair. My phone buzzes. It's not Mom. We don't talk much anymore. Maybe a polite text on holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy birthday, sterile, distant, like acquaintances who used to know each other in a past life. It's a reservation notification. I click on it. The name jumps out at me. Guest name, Brielle Parker, property. Hale Haven Retreat. Suite, the Garden Suite. Notes, paying full price. I stare at the screen. Brielle is coming, and she's paying. She isn't asking for a freebie. She isn't demanding the penthouse. She booked online, just like everyone else. I could cancel it. I have the right, but I don't. I call the manager at Hale Haven. Treat her like any other guest, I instruct. No special treatment, no upgrades. Just the standard, excellent service. A week later, I drive down to the coast. I want to see it for myself. I walk into the lobby of Hale Haven. It's bustling. I see Brielle sitting on one of the white linen sofas. She's alone. Connor isn't with her. Her kids aren't with her. She looks tired. Her blowout isn't as perfect as it used to be. There are lines around her eyes. She looks up and sees me. She stands up. For a second, I think she's going to make a snide comment. I brace myself, but she doesn't. She looks around the lobby. She looks at the view of the ocean that I reclaimed. She looks at the staff who are happy and efficient. It's real, she says quietly. Yes, I say, it's real. Mom is selling the beach house, she says. The news shocks me, but only for a second. Why? Maintenance was too high, Brielle shrugs. She looks down at her hands. And nobody goes anymore. The kids are getting older. Connor is working all the time. It just sits there empty. It's just a house, right? Just a house, I agree. There is a heavy silence between us. But it's not the silence of conflict. It's the silence of a war that is over because one side simply stopped fighting. You did good, Rowan, she says. Her voice is stiff, like the words are hard to get out. It's nice here. Thank you, I say. I don't offer her a discount. I don't invite her to dinner. I don't try to fix whatever is broken in her life. That's not my job anymore. Well, she says, picking up her bag. I'm going to go to the beach. Enjoy, I say. I watch her walk out the glass doors. She walks down the stairs to the sand. She looks small against the vastness of the ocean. I turn away. I walk up to the penthouse. I find Maya there, working on her laptop. She smiles when she sees me. Hey Mom, look, we got a 5-star review from that couple in Suite 3. I sit down beside her. I look out at the horizon. The tide is coming in, steady and rhythmic. I don't need their apology. I realized that a long time ago, an apology is just words. What I have is tangible. I have this view. I have this peace. I have this unshakable knowledge that I am capable. I built a fortress out of the stones they threw at me. Mom, Maya asks, are you listening? Yes, I say, turning to my daughter. I'm listening. I said, are we going to expand again next year? I have ideas for a desert location. I laugh. It's a loud, free sound that fills the room. Maybe, I say, we have plenty of options. And that is the truth. For years, I lived in a world where there was no room. No room in the car. No room in the house. No room in the heart. But now, I look at the endless sky. I look at the endless ocean. There is room everywhere. All I had to do was stop waiting for someone to open the door and build my own house instead. And in this house, there is always, always room for us.